Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. So I wanted to do something a little different for the next few videos. I wanted to do a series on how you might want to get into self-publishing, and part of that is how to design, or how to create at least, covers for your books, maybe your audiobooks, that will include ebooks and paperback. So what I'm going to do for the next few videos is to go over some of the basics before you actually create the covers for these assets of yours. And you can do these quite easily, but you do need to understand some of the basics. So for example, and Google is our friend, okay? It's in fact our best friend. Whenever I need to know or find out anything, I just go to Google. And the first thing I would do is decide on which platform I'm going to publish my assets on. So for example, I might have an ebook or a journal with blank lines, or I might have an ebook with a paperback book with an audiobook, okay? And I will need to decide which platforms I'm going to use to distribute these. Now, by far, the biggest, to my knowledge, ebook and possibly books and audiobook distribution outlets is run by Amazon, right? Amazon has an ebook distribution arm, and it's directly from Amazon. You don't have to do anything, but you do need to get the ebook ready, of course, and part of that is the ebook cover. Amazon is also very, very large, big player in the paperback distribution of books, and they do that through Kindle Direct Publishing, or KDP. And finally, audiobooks. Amazon is also a very big player. They have some other big players like Apple, but Amazon is, as far as I know, quite dominant in that sector. And Amazon does that through their audiobook arm called ACX. Okay, so I've opened some tabs here, but basically, if you need anything, all you need to do is go to Google and type in something like KDP Kindle Direct Publishing, followed by ebook cover, and maybe put in size. Okay, and then the first one you'll see is literally something by KDP Amazon. And this is exactly correct. So they want dimensions, ideally of this size, and then we can just change what we're trying to search for. So we did Kindle Direct. Now we can maybe do something like a paperback, which is also under Kindle Direct Publishing, which is called KDP. So, and instead of ebook, I will remove that paperback because that's what we're interested in. Now the paperback, you'll probably have to look at something like this, because unlike an ebook, okay, the paperback is a bit more complicated in the sense that you need to know the size of your book before you create your cover, okay? And I'm talking about both the front and back covers, and we'll discuss that in detail in a separate video. But essentially, if you don't know the size of your paperback book, you won't know what kind of cover you need, and also what size of a book you might want to produce your assets on. Typical sizes are 5 inches by 8 inches or 6 by 9. And KDP even allows you to choose custom sizes, which is something that not many people know about. But yes, they absolutely do allow you to choose a custom size. And maybe I'll try and cover some of that in a future video if there's enough interest. So that's the KDP cover size for paperback. Now, if you wanted to do an audiobook as well, you'll just have to look up audiobook cover size. Now, with audiobook, they will tell you what size they require, but give you a minimum. So this is the minimum you require, okay? Now, over here, the very first article is the one you need, Audible ACX Customer Help, not custhelp.com. So let's just quickly run through that as a summary. You might want to use Google and search for the ebook cover, and you'll see this over here, and it will give you the dimensions they require, and also say ideally dimensions are this size in pixels. Okay, you'll need 300 ppi, pixels per inch, as a minimum, and it must be less than 50 megabytes. So that's the ebook. Excuse me. And the paperback, where I mentioned it's a bit more complicated, you'll need to know what your page count is. Insert the page count, insert the paper color, because although it's very small, there is a very slight difference between white, cream, and color papers. So it may not matter if you're doing, a book that has very few pages, and that again is subjective. But once you get into the hundreds of pages, that's when your paper type will really come into play. And of course, like I mentioned before, you need to choose your trim size, basically your size of the book. And they've got quite a lot of these, but they've also got a custom one, which is not really used as much. So you'll have to decide, what paperback size you want to publish your book in. So that's the ebook and the paperback. Now finally, the audiobook. Now, as I mentioned, they don't give you the ideal requirements, but they do tell you the minimum requirements. So they tell it file format, and no smaller than 2400 by 2400 pixels, and minimum of 72 dots per inch resolution, and you need to use RGB. I'll cover all these later, and we'll go through a series of videos on how to get at least set up for cover design, and you can then allow your creative juices to flow and see what covers you might like to play around with for each of these assets. So I look forward to rolling these out over the next few weeks, and if you've got any questions in the meantime, please drop them in the comments, give this video a like, and subscribe to the channel. Look forward to speaking with you soon.